Hello everyone and welcome to the British Birthing Stories podcast. Each week I'll be speaking with a different mother about her story of childbirth. Let's get into today's story. Hi everyone, before we get into today's birth story, it would be amazing if you could please like and subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to your podcast. And if you have anyone in your life that you think would benefit from listening to these stories, please do share it with them. It would make such a difference. You can follow me on social at British Birthing Stories. Welcome back to the show. Today we're joined by Layla, who shares her beautiful home birth story with her son. It's such an incredible story, and Layla is a doula herself, so she has a load of insight on birth, and she is just a beautiful storyteller. So I think this is a really nice one if you are planning a home birth yourself and you specifically would like to do it through the NHS. So let's get into today's story. Hi Layla, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's great to have you on.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, Georgia. I think, what you're doing by collecting all these lovely birth stories is really positive for so many women and families.
Thanks so much. Do you want to start off and tell me a bit about yourself and who's in your family?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, I'm Layla. I am a mother to three. I've got an 8-year-old boy, and I have twin girls, identical twin girls, who are 4, and had really positive pregnancies and births with both of them, but different in many ways too. And I'm also a doula, so I support women through pregnancy and birth and postnatally. So yeah, I think my kind of lived experience has led me to this work.
So it kind of became your passion in a way, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a doula myself, and I think having that support really highlighted to me the impact it makes, the difference it makes. So yeah, it's a huge passion. I don't even consider it work, to be honest. I'm doing what I love.
You're very lucky. So probably good to start off with your journey to conception. So I know we've got 2 beautiful birth stories today, but maybe we'll start off with your son and then see if we have time to get into your beautiful girls.
Yeah, wonderful. That sounds good.
So how did you come about conceiving your son? Were you trying to conceive at the time?
Yes, we decided that we wanted a family, and I guess I was probably a little bit more eager than my husband. But it sort of felt like the right time. And I was really aware that it could take a long time. I was only 24 actually when I had AWOS. So I was, very young, no kind of risk factors as such. But in my head, I thought, well, this could, take up to a year, possibly. That's within the normal range. But I was very lucky and fell pregnant straight away.
Wow, that is amazing. And can you tell me a bit about what your early pregnancy symptoms were? So how you're feeling like physically and emotionally?
Yeah. Um, I think I was in shock that it happened so quickly, to be honest. Although we were planning, I don't know why I didn't think it could happen straight away, but that was just not in my head. So there was definitely shock to begin with. Um, and then kind of the general nausea, extreme fatigue, going off like, when you first get pregnant and you think, right, I'm going to eat super healthy, but no, that all went out the window. I could just literally stomach carbs. Um, so yeah, kind of, I guess, pretty standard. There was nothing that really stood out that was quite severe about it. So yeah, a pretty kind of easy first trimester, I guess, on the grand scheme of things.
And then what kind of care did you have during your pregnancy? So did you go through the normal midwife-led care through the NHS or did you seek any other types of care?
Yeah, so I went through the NHS, um, and I was assigned a midwife who I had continuity of care with her. Sarah was her name. I still remember her. She was so wonderful. So I really lucked out because I think, unfortunately, today that's actually quite rare to have that continuity with the same
Yeah.
midwife. But I also knew early on that I would like a doula by my side. Um, and I was trying to think, how did I hear about doulas to begin with? But I think I must have read about it maybe. And it really appealed to me to have, just that female energy, someone who was experienced with birth, but could support me emotionally through it, all the different kind of twists and turns that could possibly come up. So I actually contacted a few different doulas quite early on, and yeah, met with them, and then my doula Emma is just she was wonderful. We're still friends to this day, and
Oh,
she was my doula for my twins' birth as well, which was really special.
wow.
So
And so how did you
sorry.
find, sorry to interrupt, how did you find her exactly?
How did I find her? I think it was kind of just Googling, good old internet, looking for doulas in my area. And at that time, so that was, well, that would have been 9 years ago actually. Um, I'm down in Devon, so not in like a big city or anything. It was quite a new thing actually, doulas. So there wasn't a huge amount down here. But yeah, I just met with a few different ones to see who gelled with me.
Great. And did you do any other kind of birth prep aside from obviously having your doula supporting you? Were there any courses or?
No, I didn't actually go to any like physical in-person courses, but I read a book called The Home Birth Handbook by Annie Francis, and it was just incredible. It this is what kind of opened my eyes to home birth. It was this book. I remember going into a bookshop in my local town and seeing it on the shelf and thinking, oh, that sounds interesting. I guess I've always been quite holistic and leaning to more the natural side of things. So it really, yeah, it intrigued me thinking about birthing at home. So that book was kind of like my Bible throughout my pregnancy.
Great. And then did you find out the gender?
No, we didn't. No, we decided to have a little surprise.
Lovely. And then how did the rest of your pregnancy go then?
It was really smooth. I had a really good pregnancy. I felt really well. I'd lucked out really that I kind of just felt so so in tune with my body and kind of content, I think would be the word, just knowing this little life was in me. Yeah, I really enjoyed the pregnancy.
So would you say you were like excited for the lead up for birth with it, reading your story and having your book and your doula by your
Absolutely.
side?
Absolutely. I was so excited. Yeah, I was very set on home birth, I think, actually. And my doula really helped me in recognizing that home was a really safe option, but understandably, family members were um, not worried feels like too strong a word, but they raised concerns about it. We also lived about 40 minutes from our local hospital.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, it kept what kept coming to me was that I felt safest at home, and that for me, hospital was for poorly people, and I was not poorly.
Mhm.
Yeah, and in the circumstances of it being a low risk pregnancy and having my doula and this midwife, I just felt really safe, and it felt like the right option.
So the plan then was to birth at home.
Mhm.
What were the prep things that you did for that in terms of like, did you have a birth pool or anything like that?
Yeah. So when I looked at having a bath pool, but actually the property we were in at the time, it was like an old barn, and I knew I wanted to be upstairs, and it, it wouldn't sustain the weight when we
Yeah.
looked into it. So bath pool was out of the option, but I kind of I set the scene, I guess, like what you hear about inducing the oxytocin. So I had my fairy lights, my essential oils. I had lots of affirmations. I painted lots of affirmations as well and kind of made them really personal to me. Lots of kind of soft furnishings covered with plastic, snacks. And we had a beautiful playlist because I actually music was really important to me, and I know the song that my son was born to, which is I just think is so special. Um, yeah,
What's the song,
it's a
if you don't
song
mind saying?
called Beth Orton. Have you heard of her?
No, but I'm terrible with music, so don't.
Uh, yeah, it's a song by Beth Orton called "The Sweetest Decline,"
Oh.
it's just got really beautiful lyrics. So yeah, it's very special to her.
Did you also do any hypnobirthing tracks or anything like that? Did you actually do any hypnobirthing or?
I did do hypnobirthing. Yeah, you've just reminded me. I read a book, so I didn't go to any kind of in-person courses, but I read a book. I listened to a lot of the hypnobirthing tracks and usually fell asleep while listening to them. Um, yeah, I found that actually really helpful, just like tuning in with my breath.
Yeah, great. And then in terms of the prep for anything, I suppose, going wrong with a home birth, I feel like there are so many people that might not feel like a home birth is a safe option, even though we
Mm.
know if you're a low risk birth, it can be the safest option.
Mm.
So, how did you kind of, I suppose, prepare for a bad outcome as such?
Well, that's a great question. Do you know what? I don't think I dwelt on that too much. We had bags packed, in case a hospital transfer was needed.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know whether that's kind of naivety on my part, as a first time mum, that I just didn't think too much about things going wrong. I was just very, very confident that it would kind of all go to plan. And what I think gave me that confidence and reassurance again was that I had these midwives with me and that they're there taking care of me, and that if anything did crop up, they would be so on it.
Oh, so that's my next question. So, you said you had continuity of care with your midwife. Was that an NHS midwife, obviously? And then, so did you birth privately at home with a private midwife, or was it all through the NHS?
No, all through the NHS. And
Oh,
actually,
that's great.
I know. I think, you know, 8 years ago when my son was born, there was no shortages of midwives like there is today. It feels like
Yeah.
the maternity world has really shifted quite a lot in that sense.
Yeah. So, did you have the same midwife who was your regular checkup midwife? Was she the midwife at your birth?
Well, that's really interesting, yeah. So, um, I got to 40 plus 8, so I was, inverted commas, overdue,
Yeah.
and, I had booked myself in for a stretch and sweep that day. I was kind of getting very, as lots of, pregnant women do, to when you get past your due date and you're like, when is this baby going to be here? And so I'd had reflexology. I'd even had very uncomfortable sex to just try and bring things on. So anyway, this stretch and sweep was booked in with my midwife, Sarah, and she came to my home to do it. And to her great surprise and mine, when she did the stretch and sweep, I was already 4 centimeters dilated.
Wow.
Um, and it literally just tipped me into labor. I think she did the stretch and sweep, and maybe like half an hour later, I felt my first contraction. So Sarah was there for that very early bit. Yeah.
So, I guess my question was going to be, what was your first sign of labor? And I guess
Yeah.
that was your first sign of labor.
Yeah. Although actually, 2 days prior, I remember it was probably about 10 o'clock at night, and I started to feel like mild period cramps. And so I thought, "Oh, maybe this could be the start of it." But I went to bed, and then I just woke up in the morning. So I don't think that was the start of it, although my body was obviously preparing. But yes, it was I could not believe it when she said I was 4 centimeters, because I hadn't felt like I was in labor, and yeah, had no pain, no discomfort whatsoever. So it was, yeah, quite incredible.
So lucky. So,
Yeah.
how was your final trimester then in those weeks and days leading up to labor happening? Did you have any kind of struggles with like insomnia, or did you have any Braxton Hicks or any kind of like niggles that it might be? Obviously, it feels like your body was preparing you really, really well. Were
Mm.
there any other kind of signs?
I so Not so much in the sense that like labor was starting. The only thing that I did develop at about, I think it was maybe like 37, 38 weeks, was pelvic girdle pain, like right on my pubic bone. And I remember being very uncomfortable those last few weeks. And my boy, he's a summer baby, and it was very warm. And when you're heavily pregnant in the heat, that's not the most comfortable thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
but
got summer babies, so I know.
have you? Yeah, no, absolutely. It takes its toll on the body for sure when you're heavily pregnant. But honestly, I feel like I was very, very fortunate with that pregnancy, that it, yeah, was fairly easy and enjoyable.
Great. So, do you want to talk us through the beginning stages of your labor?
Yeah, sure. So obviously I've touched on it already. I was so 41 plus one, and had decided to go for a stretch and sweep. And my midwife offered me it, and it was uncomfortable for sure, but not it wasn't like horrific or anything. Then obviously we found out I was 4 centimeters, and she was like, wow, she was like, okay, she was like, this could definitely kind of tip you over now that we've done the stretch and sweep. And she'd encouraged me to kind of eat, take it easy. Because she didn't know. Well, we never know how birth is going to unfold, do we? But yeah, to not kind of get too carried away by trying to bring it on. Often I say to my own clients, try not to chase birth, chase labour. It will unfold. But yeah, it was very quickly after that stretch and sweep that I felt that first contraction, and my midwife was still there. And I remember very clearly I was sat in my lounge with my midwife and my husband, and I was like, wow, I think this is it. And I was sat on my yoga ball, and I kind of just was using the yoga ball, moving around instinctively. And then I think maybe like that was about midday. A few hours had passed, and I'd said to my husband, oh, I think maybe we need to call the doula now, because I was feeling myself really like retreating inwards. I was having to close my eyes during the contractions. And I thought, oh, it's so hard when it's your first birth, because you don't know the intensity of it. You don't know where you're at. I was really trying to tune into my body and feel like, oh, is this really it? And then my husband called our doula, and then I remember getting on our bed and just being on all fours, and time just disappeared. And I remember kind of opening my eyes, and the doula was there, Emma was there next to me on the floor. And then my husband must have called the midwives as well because they were in the other room. And yeah, it just happened. And what I remember is that I really shut out everything. I was so focused on my breathing and just managing my contractions one at a time. And then I remember feeling like I needed to poo, which obviously is very kind of normal during the later parts of birth. And so then midwives are like, okay, but be careful that the baby doesn't come out. But I did actually just really need a poo. So I was on the toilet. I was then sick as well. And I feel like my body was just having this massive clear out.
Purge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just getting rid of anything that didn't need to be there. And I remember coming out of the toilet and feeling really overwhelmed. And pretty sure I requested, yeah, I did. I requested at that point a vaginal examination. I wanted to know where we were at. And so that wasn't actually very easy to do, because the contractions were very close together at this point, and often they want you to be on your back so they can kind of get a more accurate reading. But I don't think I was able to do that. But anyway, she examined me, and I think I must have been about 8 centimeters, which felt amazing to hear. It really gave me a boost to know I'd got that far along.
I'd love to ask questions. So, up until now, presumably you've had no pain relief because you're at home as well. So,
Mhm.
how did all of that feel for you? Because obviously they would have been so intense at that point.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it was really intense. I just was just using my breath. I just kept coming back to my breath, and my husband was doing a lot of counter pressure on my hips. Like that
Yeah.
pressure, I remember, really like offered me relief. And I was moving a lot. I remember swaying, like I was on all fours and like really kind of moving back and forth on my bed. But yeah, it was absolutely intense. And I hadn't I knew that they had gas and air available for me, should I want it, but I just didn't feel like I needed it at that moment. Um, yeah, I was just managing okay.
So at this point, from say start to now, how many
Mm.
hours do you reckon you were labouring for?
Um, yeah, how many? Probably about 6 hours?
God, that's quick.
Yeah.
Feels pretty quick.
Yeah, it would definitely was, especially for a first, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And it sounded like you found movement quite helpful for you throughout the whole labour. Is that right? Did you do any kind of like step walking or?
I didn't, no, I did a lot of swaying. I remember leaning over a lot of lots of my furniture, like holding on to my husband and swaying. It just, often we kind of talk about different positions to utilize in birth, but it
Mm.
all just felt very instinctive.
And
Um,
did you use the TENS machine or anything like that?
I didn't actually, no, I didn't, no.
Go you. You really use not even a birth comb?
No, no, I don't think that was even a thing back then, or at least I didn't know it was.
Good golly, I used it all.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, some of us need it, don't we? We're all, yeah,
Mm.
all so different.
And then so I can't remember if you said this, so sorry if you're repeating yourself, but did you set up the house in a certain way? So was it all really dim? Did you have fairy lights up?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think because I'd kind of got into my zone so quickly, my husband and my doula was so good at creating that environment for me. Yeah, it was really beautiful. The photos we've got when I look up at kind of the scene of it all. Yeah,
Mhm.
just gorgeous.
And to take us, sorry, onto the next bit from 8 centimeters.
Mm, yeah. So I remember I'd been in the bedroom for pretty much all of that. And then our bedroom kind of led out into like a little lounge area. So then I went into the lounge and I remember leaning over a chest of drawers and feeling like I had to go up on my tiptoes during a surge and feeling like this like huge pressure. And then all of a sudden my waters went, which was very exciting.
Mhm.
But they had meconium in.
Oh, no.
So I'd read, in my pregnancy about different kind of things that crop up sometimes, and meconium being one of them. So at this point, I was a little bit alarmed, but the midwives were amazing. They weren't concerned because it was like very lightly stained. You kind of have different grades of
Mhm.
meconium. So they were lightly stained, and as I was overdue, they'd said to me it could just be that, baby's digestive system has matured and they've just, pooed while in the womb, or sometimes it can indicate they're distressed. But up until this point, my baby's heart rate had been completely fine. He seemed really happy. So they weren't massively alarmed, but they did phone an ambulance just to have on standby. And they had said to me they would like to see baby born sooner rather than later. And I
No
remember,
pressure.
yeah, yeah, I know, yeah. And I do remember like coming out of that zone a little bit. And I remember looking at my doula, Emma, and saying to her, I'm scared. And I remember her really clearly getting one of my little baby grows for my baby
Mm.
and being like, remember why you're doing this. Your baby's going to be here soon. You just go with your body. Um, yeah, so that was, I think, probably I had some fear, but also I think it was transition as well.
I was just about to say, Rhea Dempsey, I think is she British or Australian? Do you know Rhea
Oh,
Dempsey?
no, I don't.
She must be Aussie. I'm Australian. And in her book, she has an amazing birth book and she talks about a crisis of confidence.
Mm,
And that often happens at the exact point you're talking about. And I just wondered if you saying like you feeling like you couldn't do it and you were scared, like was, as you say, that feels like it was your natural.
mm, absolutely. And I think it's hard to say for sure because I think the meconium and then having to have the conversation with the midwife about it brought in some fear and adrenaline. But also, I
Yeah.
think I was very close to needing to push at that point.
Yeah.
So it was probably a combination.
And so then were you feeling the pressure did you feel the urge to start pushing at that point
I
or how?
did.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I remember reading a lot about birth and how a lot of women loved the pushing stage because they felt like they were really working with their body at that point. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is so hard. I, yeah, it felt really, my body was definitely pushing, but I was almost scared to go with it. And I just found it incredibly hard to get comfortable at that point. It's really interesting how it was for me because I felt like up until that point I could move instinctively, I could manage with it. But I remember the pushing, I was like, oh yeah, this was just so intense and I was being encouraged into different positions. I
So they
remember
were coaching you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So at one point they said, could I go on my side? And I just remember having this so much pain in my hips that I
Mm,
was like, Absolutely not."
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
where were you then at the time of pushing? Were you moving around quite a lot? Were you like leaning on the bed or?
Yeah, I so in the end, they said, "How about squatting?" And so my husband was behind me, supporting me, and I was squatting, like, yeah, very low to the floor.
Oh,
Yeah.
ouch.
Um, and I think if my memory serves me right, it was about an hour of pushing, which isn't actually bad going for, like, a first time mother.
No.
So yeah, I remember, like, the the ring of fire. And then he came really quickly after that. There wasn't, like, a big pause between the contractions, and then, yeah, he just came out, and he was absolutely fine, yeah.
So good. Do you
Mhm.
do you remember kind of the fit? Did your body naturally know how to do the pushing, or did you kind of feel like you knew how to do that? Did you read up how to do it, or did you kind of just go with what?
Oh, yeah, that's a really great question. I found it really hard, the pushing, and I remember because you can learn, like, different breath techniques from like, an up breath when you're having the contractions and then a down breath when you're feeling that need to push. And I remember trying to do it, but not there was, like, a disconnect between my mind and my body. Um, and they was coached pushing as well because they wanted him born, and they would definitely, yeah, like, really, you know, keep it going, 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 as you often hear and see about, which
Yeah.
actually I think did help me. Um, but yeah, it was definitely something that I couldn't have imagined, like, that sensation.
Yeah. So when he came out, what was he like? Did he cry? Was he?
Yeah, he cried straight away and he was put on my chest straight away. And he was quite alert. He was looking around and all was fine. And actually, I remember the paramedics, because the ambulance was outside and somebody had obviously let them in the house, and they just kind of popped their heads in the door. And the midwives were like, no, all's good, totally fine. Um, and they made cups of tea, bless them, and like, brought some snacks upstairs, the paramedics. And it was, yeah, it was just really joyful. And oh, yeah, when you've just birthed a baby, you're kind of like,
Mm.
"Whoa." Yeah, high, and almost just could not believe what I had just done.
So did you really feel that oxytocin rush then that people talk about?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was high as a kite, just in, like, just so proud of myself that I had done it.
Yeah,
So
I
proud of
bet.
myself.
And a first time birth. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So the placenta.
Gosh, yeah, the placenta. What we
How
all
did that go?
yeah, so I'd opted for, oh, what's it called there? Not having the injection,
Yeah.
um, and a physiological, that's
Yeah.
the word I can think of. Physiological third stage, and they were absolutely fine with that. There was no active bleeding or anything.
Yeah.
Um, but they waited an hour and a half, and it still hadn't come, so I was like, "Oh, I just want this over and done with now." So they gave me the injection, and I think it
Mhm.
probably arrived about half an hour later.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely took a bit of time with the placenta.
Did you
Um,
take a look?
I did. I did. Yeah, I actually had it encapsulated.
Oh, nice. And what is your plan with it?
So I yeah had it encapsulated to take as little tablets. But that is an interesting story. I don't know if we'll talk about the postnatal time.
Yeah, no, I'd love to cover that. Feel free to go.
Mm. Um, so yeah, so with the placenta, I had it encapsulated, but actually, what's really interesting about my pregnancy and my birth is that it was all absolutely joyful, blissful,
Mm.
but the postnatal time was anything but. Yeah, so I got postnatal depression with my little boy, and it was just a complete bolt out of the blue. I couldn't believe I'd never suffered with any kind of mental health stuff before.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I remember him being probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days old, and I remember thinking, "Gosh, I don't feel right."
yeah,
Just I knew. I knew instinctively that this was not just like the baby blues. There was something going on within me that just yeah, I felt I felt scared of him actually, which is such a sad thing to feel.
mm,
Um, so with the having my placenta encapsulated, that is actually, there is some anecdotal evidence that that can support the hormones and potentially developing postnatal depression. But what's really interesting with me is that when I was taking the placenta tablets, I again had this really strong feeling that I just shouldn't be. And I felt awful because it's not cheap to get your placenta encapsulated,
how
but
much does it cost out of curiosity?
oh, I'm I think it was maybe like £170.
Okay.
So it's a decent chunk of
Yeah.
money.
And what year was this?
2017.
So that's quite a while ago too.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm not sure how much it costs these days, but probably, yeah, it's gonna be more. But yeah, I had just this feeling that I shouldn't be taking them, which was really strange. I can't even explain why, but I decided to stop taking them.
I'm so sorry that you went through that with your
Mm,
in your postpartum with your
thank
son.
you.
Just because there might be others listening now that aren't quite sure of maybe what the warning signs are or if they're
Mm,
having those feelings, can you kind of mentioned a bit of it being scared, like an anxiety. Were there any other,
mm.
like, I suppose, like, feelings or reactions or moments in the day, like, were there, looking back on now, that you could see as, like, warning signs for maybe a caregiver to be aware of?
Yeah. Well, I completely lost my appetite. I didn't want to
Okay.
eat. I could not sleep. So, we often hear sleep when the baby sleeps.
Mm,
But I could not switch off, which I guess is a fairly common thing. But
yeah,
my mind was just racing, and I would get like heart palpitations. Um, and I think the thing with me is that I was very open. Like straight away, I said to my husband, my friends, my doula, "I'm not right." And I guess they were all kind of like, "Look, you've just become a mum. This is
yeah,
a huge life change. It takes a while to get used to. The sleep deprivation coupled with the hormones, it's almost like the perfect storm."
yeah,
So I'd gone on a few weeks like that, just feeling, yeah, really quite anxious.
mm,
Um, he was also a terrible sleeper. I mean, like
doesn't make it easy.
horrific,
Oh,
up every hour.
sorry.
Yeah. So I think when things compound like that,
Yeah.
your brain does funny things.
Was
So
there, sorry to interrupt, was there
no.
kind of like a lack of bonding between you and him as well? Like, did you feel maybe when he came out that, there wasn't that instant, like, love or
Yeah. Um, I definitely felt like this rush of love for sure. I felt that, and it didn't feel like I didn't love him or that I didn't know him. It was more like I couldn't believe I was responsible for him.
Mm.
this tiny little creature who just relied on me for everything. I was breastfeeding as well, which I loved. And actually, during those early weeks and months when I felt at my lowest, it felt like the only thing I was getting right.
Yeah.
Um, and I and a lot of well-meaning friends and family suggested formula. But I was like, no, that's not going to help me.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I wanted. For some mums that would be the right choice and option. But for me, I was like, no, it's the breastfeeding is the thing that I'm doing right. But I felt everything else I was getting wrong.
Not to mention the oxytocin and the connection and bonding that you're getting from that with him.
Totally. Yeah.
So you were lucky that your breastfeeding journey went quite well. But what support did you then get for, excuse me,
Bless
for
you.
the kind of your mental health?
Yeah. So I decided to go to the doctors at 6 weeks, and I'd been Googling everything, as you do,
Yeah.
and getting myself in such a tears and I really self-diagnosed postnatal depression. And actually, the reason I decided to go to the doctor was I remember having a conversation with a friend, and she had gone through, it wasn't postnatal depression, but a depression of some sorts. And she'd said to me she wasn't the wife or mother that she knew she could be and wanted to be. And that really resonated with me. Um, and so I thought, yeah, I need to do something. So
Mhm.
I went to the doctors, and I had a really wonderful, wonderful doctor who was a mother herself. So I think that really helped. And initially they said, try CBT.
Mhm.
And I started that pretty quickly, actually, but I felt like I was on the edge of an abyss, and the CBT was not going to pull me back from that abyss quickly enough. So I went back to the doctor and I said, "Oh, I want to go on medication," which felt huge because I'm someone who doesn't even take paracetamol. Like you know, I try to avoid any kind of medication at all. So I
Yeah.
was terrified to take an antidepressant, but I also recognized I needed help.
Mhm.
So she prescribed me an antidepressant, the lowest dose they started me on, and yeah, it absolutely did the trick. I think probably within a month, it just felt like this heavy fog had lifted.
Back to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and it was still, I mean, it was still hard, really hard, so
Mm.
challenging for both me and my husband. And reflecting back now, I can see that my son was a higher needs baby.
Mhm.
Um, and as a first time mother, it felt to me that I just couldn't soothe him. But
Mhm.
actually, I was doing everything that I could have possibly done. And it was just his little nature, his personality.
And at the time, especially having been a first-time parent myself, you kind of look at everyone around you, and there are such kind of strict parameters and guidelines that we're told that our babies should have these wake
Mm.
windows and sleep when they're meant to sleep and sleep through the night. And,
Mm.
if you don't have a baby that plays the rules and you're
Mm.
going to these baby groups and everyone's going, oh, you know, little Lottie eats her full meal. I know she always has a 3-hour lunch nap. And you're like, what?
Not mine.
And it's deflating because you've never done it before. So I can really empathize with that so much.
Mm.
I wanted to ask a little bit about your personal recovery, like physically in yourself. Did you have any tears or anything like that? Like, how did you find your physical recovery postpartum?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so it was probably a little bit harder than I had envisioned, I guess. So I did tear. I had a second-degree tear, which
Yeah.
was actually quite deep into the muscle. And I was able to stay at home for that, for those stitches, which was really good. I didn't have to transfer into hospital. And one of the things that stood out to me was the amount of pain I had in my coccyx. And I
Mhm.
obviously that has to move out the way, when babies are navigating the pelvis. But it was, yeah, really painful, and that had shocked me. And I did take paracetamol and ibuprofen for that in those early weeks. And I'm not sure particularly why it hurt so much, but it did.
Mm.
Um, but
And
yeah,
then,
sorry, I was just going to say,
no,
I nutrition wise, I'd stocked up my freezer, so we had like loads of food in to help. And gradually my appetite did return as well, which was good.
yeah, great. How long did you then stay on the antidepressants for?
So I started them when my son was 6 weeks, and I came off them when he was, I think, about 5.5, 6-ish months.
Nice.
So
And was that
yeah,
transition off okay?
absolutely fine. Yeah, I remember I contacted the doctor and said I'd like to try and come off them and see how I feel. And she told me to kind of cut them in half and just kind of wean myself off. But I actually just stopped cold turkey. Not that I recommend people to do that, but that's what I decided for myself. And I was totally fine. I was extremely fortunate that the antidepressants didn't give me any side effects when I was on them or when I came off them.
And I forgot to ask this earlier, but how much did he weigh?
He weighed 6 pounds 11. So he
Oh,
was quite
nice.
quite little really, yeah. Although
Yeah.
not compared to my twins, but that's for another time.
Yeah. And so then, so kind of moving forward from the newborn phase. So the newborn phase, what would you say were your like biggest challenges, obviously aside from your mental health? What did you struggle with or find easy in those
Mm,
initial months?
yeah, that's a really nice question. Um, I I found breastfeeding fairly easy, which is obviously something that's quite uncommon to hear, but yeah, my son was very good. He kind of knew what to do, and I had the support. The midwives are really good, and so was my doula. And yeah, it kind of just clicked fairly easy. So breastfeeding, I loved actually. That really, it just yeah, I adored it. I really enjoyed breastfeeding. It was hard going because he was up through the night so often. Although I did actually decide, I started to pump to be able to get a little bit more sleep so I could have, like a 3 hour stretch and my husband could give him a bottle. So, yeah, I'd say that's the thing that I really enjoyed. Um, and then the biggest struggles, gosh, I think I like the obvious, like the sleep deprivation, but also the change in my relationship with my husband. I think that's often overlooked. Um, because you're both learning to be parents, something you've never done before. You know, your relationship goes on the back burner for a little while. And that was something that we hadn't spoken about or thought about really, actually. So that definitely was a struggle. We'd been together 6 years before we had a baby, so we had a really good, solid foundation. But
Mm.
yeah, it was really intense. It took a toll on our marriage for sure.
I can imagine it might have been quite maybe confronting for him as well. Like you'd had this magical birth experience and everything had gone to plan, and then your mental health suffered
Mm,
quite a lot afterwards. And I suppose might have been quite difficult for him. Does he have anything that he reflects on post that or
mm.
challenges that he had?
Yeah, I think I do you know, I remember us going for a walk, this one particular day, and him, I was kind of state, and I remember him saying to me, he was like, "I think I might have postnatal depression too." He was like, "I just feel so low with it all."
Mm,
And at that time, not actually realizing that men do suffer from postnatal depression as well.
mm.
And I think it's such a beautiful time, but my gosh, it's like wildly intense as well. Um, just a huge shift for everybody. So yeah, I think for my husband, looking back, yeah, he was just learning on the job, like how he'd never seen, he'd become a father, but then also his wife, he'd never suffered with mental health before. All of a sudden, really, really was really impacted by it all. So he was amazing though. I'm very fortunate that, we got through that time. And yeah, sometimes it's not until you're kind of through really shitty time and you reflect back that you can see in many ways it's made us stronger.
Yeah, and so presumably because you were able to get your son on the bottle and your husband could help with feeds, he could help you at the night to kind of improve your sleep?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
and he was so good with that.
That's amazing. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what you do because you're actually a doula yourself.
I
Uh,
am, yeah.
so do you want to tell us a bit about your journey, how you came to find your work?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, I'd love to. So, yeah, so I had my son, and then I was a stay-at-home mum with him, which I was very, very lucky to be able to do. And then I had my twins when my son was just over 3, and again, I stayed home with them until they were 3, and I decided I I just had this, I don't want to say calling, but this real desire to either actually be a midwife or a doula. It was always midwife is something that's always been on my radar, but kind of just never seemed to happen.
Yeah.
And there was some doula training that was quite local to me in a city near me, and I thought, oh, I remember seeing it and crying because it felt like a now or never moment. And I know obviously there's lots of doula training academies and you can do it online, but I'm a very much in person. I need the energy of others and I learn a lot better like in person. So yeah, I went for it. I spoke to my husband and we thought, yeah, let's do it.
And so you're are you now a full-time practicing doula? Did you then just go and do the course and
Yeah.
get on clients straight away?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I jumped like head first into it. Absolutely. Yeah, so I did my training just over 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And I set up my website. I contacted other local doulas to let them know I was in the area, spoke to midwives. And I mean, I've been very fortunate that since I kind of, yeah, stepped out into the world as a doula, I've had work and supported, yeah, lots of amazing families. And it feels like I've come full circle.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening and they perhaps might want you as your doula, as their doula,
Mm.
where are you based in the UK, if you don't mind me
Yeah,
asking?
no, so I'm in Devon, in a little town called Brixham. So I cover Torbay, South Hams, and up to Exeter. Um,
Great.
yeah.
And so I'll link everything in the show notes so they can have a link to your website and
Oh,
things like
thank
that.
you.
But it'd be great to just as we kind of close up the episode to get a few kind of nuggets of advice or like words of wisdom. If there's any expected parents who maybe have not even had a first baby,
Mm,
what would your best piece of advice be, given like our current climate and everything like that, if they are hoping for a home birth?
mm,
It's obviously so hard now to get home birth support through the NHS. But if you have any kind of words of wisdom.
mm. Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. And it's tricky. It's really tricky at the minute, Georgia. And I think I'm obviously going to sound biased saying this, but look into doulas and what we can do, what we can offer. Because I think when somebody is hoping for a home birth, because of the current state of the NHS, the maternity care at the minute,
Mm,
often that isn't an option. And I see it firsthand with my clients at the minute. So I think if you can afford a doula and then that's your continuity of care,
mhm.
and you choose to then step into hospital, doulas can be that friendly face, that reminder, somebody who's not there to talk for you, but to help your voice be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's changed so much even since I had my twins, the maternity world, and midwives are absolutely incredible. I see it firsthand how hard they work, and they're there to support the women. But unfortunately, we've just over medicalized birth
Mm,
completely, and yeah, I think getting really informed is really helpful, and getting reliable information, not just
Yeah.
Googling everything, because often that's just opinion. Finding reliable resources.
ChatGPT is not always accurate, people.
No, no, it is not. No, that's also biased.
Yes. Speaking of, do you have any like books, references, websites, podcasts, anywhere that you kind of would send your clients normally?
I do, yeah. So Dr. Rachel Reed is one of them. She's actually, she's British, but I believe she lives in Australia now.
Ooh.
And she has a podcast called The Midwife Cauldron. I don't know if you've come across that.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. And also, Sarah Wickham is also, she's a midwife and researcher, and she's amazing. She kind of breaks down a lot of the studies into easy, digestible information that is in layman's terms, so I can understand it.
That's really interesting. I have not heard of her, Sarah Wickham, and her.
Sarah Wickham, yeah.
What's the name of her podcast? Or
Oh,
does that...
she doesn't have a podcast,
Oh,
so no.
sorry, just her.
Yeah, she's got a website and she has lots of books as well.
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. There's also a fabulous one. I don't know if you've heard of this, but I listen to it because I'm an Aussie, and it's called, oh God, I'm going to forget it. Oh, The Great Birth Rebellion.
Oh, yeah, with Mel, the midwife.
So good.
Oh,
And it's similar to that.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
I just
really
found that
brilliant.
incredible. I kind of like to be able to piece together, like each episode is focused on a different thing. And I thought that was so helpful if you were like, if you had a
Totally.
specific issue.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's loads of amazing podcasts out there now. And yeah, but you know, if you don't know about it, you don't know about it, do you?
Yeah. So I guess how can anyone reach you? What's the best point in getting in touch?
So I have a website. Shall I say it?
Yeah, please.
It's Full Bloom Doula. Oh, I forgot it. I was going to say that's my email. www.fullbloomdoula.co.uk.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that has a little bit more about me on there, and the packages that I offer. And I also have an Instagram account, which is again Full Bloom Doula, and people can kind of see a little bit more about me on there as well.
So lovely. Well, I've really appreciated having you on today. And we've actually got another birth to get to, which we'll do in a separate recording because that is a very special one as well. They're all special, but that's probably going to be a bigger one.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
With your beautiful twins.
Yeah.
It's been lovely to have you on today, and we'll speak again soon.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Georgia.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're loving the birth stories, it would be fantastic if you could leave us a review, give us a like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast apps, and please do share with any friends that are expecting, trying to conceive, or maybe having their second, third, fourth babies, whatever it is. I'd love for you to pass it on to them, and I'll be in your ears next week.